Our next speaker is Noah Grand from the Department of Sociology. His talk is entitled, Blogging Your Way Through an Election Year.
Thank you. Imagine there's an upcoming presidential election. Because there is one in a few years, right? People may want to get together and discuss the important issues of the day. It's what Americans have done in one way or another for almost 240 years. Of course, today, people mainly get together through online forums. And there's much greater diversity today, a much wider range of opinions than colonial New England. So what'll happen? Will people get together and create brand new forms of political discourse? Or will people take advantage of these new technologies and talk about something completely different, avoiding politics altogether? As a sociologist and a former political reporter, the 2008 election fascinates me because it was the first time for many Americans to share their opinions about politics online. Now, what I decided to do is I thought I could take my reporter skills and combine them with my sociological focus in quantifying changes in the news over time. By gathering blog posts, media websites, I thought that I could track changes in how phrases like, "yes, we can," spread across the internet. Fortunately, some computer scientists had already done a lot of the hard work. They collected a data set of nearly every blog and media organization throughout the United States. And so a lot of the work had been done. They did a good job isolating phrases with at least 3 words. Unfortunately, what I got, it wasn't perfect. I had to spend the next 5 months sifting through all the data by hand, sorting out all the bugs, and producing a new data set. Fortunately, I was successful, producing a new data set with 1.27 million web pages that accurately tracked which phrases were the most popular, regardless of whether or not they discussed politics, regardless of who said them, along with tracking how it is that these phrases spread. Now, the first phrase I looked at took place about 2 months before the 2008 election. In a live TV interview, Senator Barack Obama accidentally said the phrase, "my Muslim faith." Once it was brought to his attention, he quickly corrected himself, saying, "my Christian faith." By Monday morning, very next day, Obama's gaffe was the talk of the campaign trail. He made headlines in newspapers, television, and the political internet. How it all started was when the conservative blog hotair.com posted Obama's transcript. After going through what Obama said in detail, the blogger actually told readers not to spread Obama's verbal misstep. In fact, he said, "let's cut this one off at the pass before it gets going." Now, you can probably imagine what happens next. Conservative bloggers did the opposite. They shared this phrase as soon as possible. Now, this may seem shocking to those of us who grew up in an era of professional news, but early Americans, they'd feel right at home. Spreading a phrase, slinging around some phrase to rally partisan opposition, often in very nasty ways, this was the first form of journalism practiced in the United States. Now, if we think back to a prior election, we probably remember who won. We might even remember a few hit phrases. But politicians try to produce news every day. This dichotomy brings me to my first research question. How much will bloggers repeat all the various things that politicians say, even during an election, as opposed to repeating other topics instead? What I found was that, on average, bloggers repeated political phrases 34.5% less often than non-political phrases. In an era when people could write about anything that they want to, many of them chose not to write about politics. Now, my data set also has nearly every media organization in the United States, including the Daily Bruin. We'd think that these media organizations, they'd focus on politics, right? Well, when I put all these media organizations together, then I ran the statistical models, it turns out there really wasn't any difference between political topics and non-political topics. As sociologists, we're trained to think about unintended consequences, and the democratization of publishing has a bunch. Media websites increasingly chase the audience, and one of the things that means is you get a wider range of both current events and entertainment news that get put on the front page of the website. The days when politics would be far above any other topic, those are going away. Now, another example of this unintended consequence is the fact that only 11 websites repeated the phrase, "This election is about issues." Ironically, Rick Davis, the campaign manager for John McCain, said the opposite. He told the Washington Post, "This election is not about issues." What Davis understood is how partisan blogs spread phrases like "my Muslim faith." These partisan blogs, they're like America's first newspapers. They're explicitly partisan, extremely nasty, and read almost entirely for their political opinions. This leads me to my second research question. Will liberal blogs and conservative blogs write about entirely separate topics? If not, how much will they overlap? To try and answer this question, I separated the 8 largest liberal blogs and the 8 largest conservative blogs. Put together, these blogs repeated political phrases about 2.5 times as often as non-political topics. Now, what really surprised me when I was looking at these results is it turns out the large liberal blogs, they're actually closer to the large conservative blogs than to the mainstream media. These partisan blogs agreed on emphasis on race, gender, and the economy, while ignoring non-political topics. So I wondered, if they're talking about the same topics, will they talk about the same politicians as well? It turns out the conservative blogs, they were really interested in Obama. Big surprise, right? Regardless of what Obama decided to talk about, the conservative blogs repeated his phrases about 38% more than any other politician. Now, liberal blogs did the opposite. They actually repeated Obama's statements 15.5% less than other politicians. These liberal sites, they were really interested in Sarah Palin, repeating her phrases 86% more often. 86% more often than other politicians. Everyone was interested in Palin, but especially the liberal blogs. And with the rise of these partisan sites and their focus, especially on the other party, it may seem like history is repeating itself. After all, many of us can probably think of some friend or some family member who we wish would really think twice before posting their political opinions online. Now, there is a greater range of opinions than ever before, and yes, that does include a lot of nastiness. But there is a silver lining. Partisan presses did not tear apart our foray into the great democratic experiment. And in fact, in my own data set, the most popular phrase was "I love you." Now, all right, I've got to laugh at that one. So, what the era of online publishing represents is greater potential than we've ever had before. Those of us who may have been left out of a New Hampshire town hall 240 years ago, or even left out of the news 20 years ago, we can build a new gathering place online, one that better fits our needs. As it turns out, this new gathering place online may be a place to escape politics altogether. Thank you.